American Midwest, a patchwork of sprawling farmlands and vast prairie, dotted with small-town Americana. This is the heartland of the United States. It forms the very backbone of the country's agricultural and industrial core. It is home to numerous families, farms, fields, and factories, and yet it is often disparagingly referred to simply as flyover country. But in the summer of 1977, something else had taken wing, something that would shake one small community to its very core and remind us all that sometimes the monsters are all too real. History is rife with tales of the inexplicable and the unknown. Stories so bizarre, they send the fingers of doubt creeping into the recesses of our very minds. Join us as we investigate.
This week in Creepy History.
Hi, I'm Laura Kram. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 2 of the Creepy Acres podcast. This week in Creepy History. And with me today is my co-host, the one and only Sam Squatch. Hi, Sam.
Oh, hey, how you doing, Laura? Oh, my God. Hey, I think we need to point out again that this is the only podcast currently available with a Bigfoot as the co-host. You know what I'm saying? Just a second. Oh, my God, so good. Oh, it's so good.
What are you doing?
Oh, I found this thing of pulled pork in the back of the fridge. Oh, God, so good. It's so good. I mean, yeah, it's been back there for like 3 weeks or months. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's still good. Pulled pork, it doesn't go bad. You know, it just ages like cheese or
I don't know.
Or like wine or like
I think it.
Selma Hayek. You know, just the older it gets, the better it is. Oh my God, it's so good.
What kind of sauce do you have on it?
Sauce? What the hell are you talking about?
Like what kind of barbecue sauce? Is it sweet? Is it?
Oh my God, so good. You know, I'm not even using a sauce at this point. I'm just raw dogging this, you know.
Oh my God.
I think I'm using that term right. Whatever. And honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, it's been in the back of the fridge long enough, it's kind of started to congeal. It's making like its own sauce at this point, you know?
Ugh.
Oh, but you know what? It's still so good. It's so good. Oh my God.
So disappointed in you.
Disappointed? What are you talking about? I'm a cryptid, all right? Half of us eat roadkill. This is a step up from what I normally eat, all right? I mean, this at least doesn't have rocks and gravel and shit in it. You know what I'm saying? Okay, all right.
Are you done eating?
Yep. Hold on. Oh, we're good. Okay, let's go.
Okay.
Sorry. Yep.
This week in Creepy History, we are talking about the Lawndale Thunderbird attack.
Oh boy, yeah.
What do you think?
I have no idea what that is, but it sounds awesome.
It's just a big bird.
I saw a big bird on the highway the other day. It was just a guy flipping me off in traffic, but God, his hands were huge. I'm assuming it's not that kind of bird.
Well, let's hand it over to Nathaniel Leonards, and he can tell us all about it.
Oh, cool. All right.
Lawndale, Illinois. It is the quintessential small American town, although calling it a town is perhaps being generous. With a mere 250 citizens, this sleepy village consists of a single bar, one grain elevator, and a post office, with a smattering of simple houses and converted trailer homes nestled in between. It is quaint, it is quiet, and it is safe. It is the town where nothing ever happens. That is, until July 25th, 1977. It is a warm and humid Monday evening as Jake Lowe and his wife Ruth clean the family camper, which is parked in the driveway of their Lawndale home. They are accompanied by another couple, Jim and Betty Daniels, two friends visiting from nearby Lincoln, Illinois. Meanwhile, the Lowe's 10-year-old son Marlon is in the backyard playing hide and seek with two friends, Travis Goodwin and Michael Thompson. Unfortunately, this picture-perfect summer evening is about to become a waking nightmare. Around 8:30 p.m., the boys, Marlon, Travis, and Michael, spot them approaching from the south. Two silhouettes taking shape against a summer sky that is quickly giving way to dusk. Perhaps the boys thought they were looking at two small airplanes flying low over the town. That is, they may have thought that until those wings began to flap. What childlike wonder they must have felt looking up at those shadowy forms as they took shape against that endless summer sky, finally revealing themselves in fact to be giant, colossal birds, like something from a fairy tale. And what horrors must have flashed through their young minds as they realized that those monstrous predators were staring back at them. And then it happened. Travis Goodwin is targeted first as one of the two feathered monsters drops from the sky and rockets toward him. Instinctively, Goodwin dives for cover in a small, shallow plastic swimming pool sitting nearby, and just in the nick of time. But the winged horror has no intention of leaving empty-handed, and begins to circle back. The sound from the backyard has turned from children playing to screams of utter terror. Ruth Lowe, hearing the commotion, heads to the backyard to check on her son and his friends. The birds now make another run at the boys. And this time, the larger of the two has chosen Marlon Lowe as its prey. The boy tries to run, but with little effect. With lightning speed, it is already on top of him. Begins grabbing and clawing at the boy with its massive talons, eventually snagging the fabric of his sleeveless t-shirt. The monster, now with a grip on Marlon, begins to peck and slash at him, with a curved beak as long as a butcher knife. Marlon is screaming, punching at the air, and thrashing about, trying to break free. Then, to his everlasting horror, he feels his feet leave the ground. This is the sight Ruth Lowe is met with as she enters the backyard of her home. There, before her, is her 10-year-old child, locked in the grip of a monster. A monster that has managed to lift him 2, perhaps 3 feet from the ground. The bird's wings beat against the air mercilessly as it tries to lift the boy higher, but simply cannot. Unable to gain altitude, it drags Marlon 35 feet across the backyard. What happens next is a blur. Perhaps it was Marlon's efforts to break free, or perhaps it was Mrs. Lowe's screams of terror. Or perhaps it was some combination of both. But the outcome is the same. The winged nightmare drops the boy. Feathered monstrosities then attempt to roost in a nearby tree, but are unable as the branches simply cannot support the tremendous weight. So once again, they are forced to take wing. This time they decide to abandon would-be prey and exit the area. Marlon's father Jake and the Lowe's guests Jim and Betty Daniels were now also seeing the colossal birds. as they just clear the top of the camper, fly under some nearby telephone lines, and head off toward the north, toward Kickapoo Creek. All 7 witnesses that day describe the exact same thing. Mrs. Ruth Lowe would later tell police,
"It had a white ring around its foot and half-long neck. The rest of the body was very black. The bird's bill was 6 inches in length and hooked at the end. The claws on the feet were arranged with 3 in the front and 1 in the back."
However, the wingspan varies. While some claim it was a monstrous 12 feet wide, others claim it was a paltry 8 feet.
"They were the biggest things I've ever seen."
The Lowes try to console their terrified son, who, for other than a few minor cuts and scratches, appears miraculously unharmed. However, even though Marlin seems unscathed, he is left mentally traumatized by the ordeal. Ruth hesitates to call the police, afraid they won't believe her story, but her fear of the birds attacking another child overwhelm her, and the following day, she contacts the local authorities. On July 25th and 26th, deputies from the Logan County Sheriff's Department search the area around the creek, but they find no evidence of the birds. A game warden later unsuccessfully tries to convince Ruth Lowe that the birds she had seen that day were simply turkey vultures, but Ruth knows in her heart it was something else entirely. She would spend hours looking through photos of large birds, trying to find some creature that was a match for her son's attacker. Ultimately, she would claim
It was similar to a California condor, only much bigger.
However, not everyone dismissed the Lowe family and their claims. Several newspapers would pick up the story and continue to update readers over the next few months as the 2 birds continued their journey across Illinois. 3 days later, July 28th, around 5:30 p.m., Janet Brandt had left Minor, Illinois, and was driving along Minor Road, about 20 miles north of Lawndale. And as she headed to her home in Armington, she spotted a massive bird, larger than the hood of her car. It was flying from east to west, about 30 feet off the ground, and it was black with a white ring around its neck. Around 8 p.m. that very same night, just 2.5 hours later, Stanley Thompson, a McLean County farmer, his wife, and several friends are watching radio-controlled airplanes over the Thompson farm when a huge bird, matching the description of the Lowe's attacker, flies overhead. Thompson claims the bird had a wingspan of at least 10 feet and a body 6 feet long, as it dwarfed the small planes. McLean County Sheriff Sergeant Robert Boyd found Thompson was a credible witness, and although he had questioned the validity of the original report, he had decided to investigate after speaking with Thompson. The very next day, July 29th, around 5:30 a.m., James Majors, a mail truck driver, is driving from Armington to Delavan when he witnesses 2 giant birds flying over the Hampshire hog farm. He spots them just in time to witness one of the creatures swoop down into a nearby field and snatch up an animal. Majors speculates that it was in fact a small pig, and estimates it weighed as much as 40 pounds. When both birds fly away to the north, Majors is so distraught by what he has seen that he stops at the very next town, jumps out of his vehicle, and begins smoking frantically in an attempt to regain his composure. While Ruth Lowe admitted that the creature that attacked her child resembled a California condor, it is important to note that in 1977, California condors were all but extinct. There were only 45 known living specimens on the entire planet, and those were found in the deserts of Southern California some 2,000 miles away. Additionally, while similar, the California condor was not an exact match, and it was far too small to lift a 56-pound child from the ground. But there was one bird that was perhaps a closer match to the various witness accounts, and that was the Andean condor. This king of the Andes is black with a white ring around its neck and has an 8 to 10.5 foot wingspan. But, like the name suggests, it is found in the Andes Mountains, located 3,000 miles away on an entirely different continent. Moreover, condors are not aggressive. They are in fact vultures, and therefore carrion feeders. They are eaters of the dead. They do not hunt their prey. So just what were these colossal terrors? Some have suggested they are simply misidentified, while others propose that they were in fact new or unknown species. Some have speculated that they might have been teratorns, which were monstrous birds of prey that once populated North and South America but have long become extinct. Some have even speculated that the birds themselves might have been the fabled thunderbird found in Native American lore. Whatever the birds might have been, their impact on the Lowe family was devastating. In the days that follow, Marlin, while physically unscathed, would suffer psychologically. He would be too terrified to even leave his house for weeks after the initial attack. He would also suffer countless sleepless nights at the hands of reoccurring nightmares. Ruth would often say that her son fought those birds for months, even years, after that incident. Besides Marlin's clear signs of PTSD, the Lowe family was mercilessly tormented and harassed. Wildlife officials would claim that the attack was a hoax and simply impossible. And journalists would hound the family. To make matters worse, the Lowes were mocked and ridiculed by the other residents of Lawndale. Dead birds would be left on the front step by cruel pranksters, and Marlin would be dubbed Bird Boy by the locals. Even Marlin's father, Jake, would find his son's ordeal the butt of jokes at his workplace. In many ways, the cruelty visited on the Lowe family following the attack, and little Marlin in particular, was worse than the actual event itself. In the end, we may never identify the birds that Marlin Lowe faced that day, but instead we may have to settle for knowing the kind of monsters that attacked him after.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's pretty messed. You know what they did to that kid is pretty messed up. That's kind of sad, but
Yeah, you feel sorry for him.
I mean, I do, but at the same time, it's like, well, I mean, literally, he's got to be like 60 some years old at this point. He's a grown man. I mean, I'm sure he's got to be over by now, right? I mean, right?
I hope.
But then again, what if he's not? What if it's just been eating away at him for the last 50 years, and he has just spent the decades plotting and planning to just wreak terrible vengeance down on all the sons of bitches that wronged him, because God damn it, they knew what they were doing. So I am sorry. I got a little hot under the collar there, guys. I am so sorry. I've not been sleeping well lately. I was up all night updating my enemies list. I apologize, everybody. Anyway, so as I was saying, I mean, he's got to be over by now, right? Yeah. Time heals all wounds.
I would hope so, but know what? You know who would know?
I don't.
Our special guest tonight.
We got a special guest?
We do.
Oh my God, who is it?
Guess.
Oh, it's a special guest. Ha ha! Oh, well played. Is it Clint Howard? Oh my God, let it be Clint Howard. Is it Clint Howard?
Nope.
Ah, fuck. It's never Clint Howard. God damn it.
Guess again.
Is it the guy that Elon Musk hollowed out so he could wear his skin to pass for human?
Not this time.
Is it 5 raccoons in a trench coat and a hat pretending to be a guy?
Nope.
Is it Mary Kate Olsen?
Nope. Bigger.
Ashley Olsen?
Nope. Guess again.
Is it our Lord and Savior, Mr. Rogers? That guy is so good. He's so good. I love him. Okay. Is it him? Oh.
Unless he's a ghost.
Mr. Rogers is dead. This is how I find out? Oh my God. Oh my God.
Are you okay? Do you need a tissue?
I'll live. Oh my God. All right. I don't know. Who is it?
It's Troy Taylor.
Troy Taylor. How the hell do we get Troy Taylor?
Dude, I don't know. I'm fangirling over here.
As you should. Wait a minute. Are you putting on chapstick?
I am.
You're putting on chapstick? Are you?
For a podcast, yes.
For a pocket? Good Lord. Wow. All right. I see you're dolling up your makeup a little bit. Oh my God. You are getting ready. He is, oh boy. All right, here we go.
Do you know who he is?
Do I know who Troy Taylor is? Yeah, I know who Troy Taylor is. Yeah, of course.
Tell me. All right, tell me. Let's hear it.
Well, for starters, he wrote like a book or like 100 of them.
More.
All right. Look, he is the author of like 140 some books, okay? It's like him and Stephen King and like Nick Redfern could all get together and have a contest of who could build the biggest tower using their own books as the bricks. You know what I'm saying?
Think of the word count on that. That's just...
I mean, that's got to reach to the moon. I mean, at least, right?
And back.
Let's not get crazy. I mean, there's a limit, for the love of God. I mean, do you even know how... Oh, whatever. The point is, that's enough books.
He can make a house.
Yes. You could make a house with that many books. My God.
It's impressive.
That is pretty impressive.
And he also has a podcast.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know if he knows this, but so do we. I mean, yeah, they've been doing theirs for 7 seasons, and we're only on our 2nd episode, but I mean, we're basically the same.
Yeah, look at us.
It's not like there's so many podcasts out there that we're just gonna get lost in the shuffle. I mean, come on.
Never.
I feel like that was sarcastic. God damn it, Laura Cram.
He also does dinner events.
Ooh.
He also does the haunted Alton tours.
I mean, the guy does so much. I just gotta ask. Do you think he employs ghosts for his tours? You know what I'm saying? Like, does he have ghosts on the payroll?
He's been doing this for such a long time. Probably.
Oh my God. What'd you even pay him with? He's like a Renaissance man. This is cool. All right.
Well, our guest today is author of countless books. I think he's at 140-ish on crime and supernatural history, including Monsters of Illinois and Weird Illinois. Today we have Troy Taylor.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Mr. Taylor, Troy, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
Good to be here.
You're also the owner of American Hauntings Ink.
Yeah, he is.
And you have the Alton Hauntings. We're at Chicago, Haunted America Conference. You have a podcast called American Hauntings with Cody. And all around, this is what you do.
Oh, my God. I'm exhausted just listening to that list. Oh, my God. Troy, at this point, is there anything you don't do?
Yeah, I'm busy. Yeah, I'm busy. We can leave it at that and just say, hey, this guy does nothing but this. It's what it sounds like.
What are you running from? Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like it, right?
So really quick, Troy, how did you get into the paranormal and all the weird stuff?
You know, it's something I've just been interested in all my life. And I always blame it on my grandfather. He was a police officer in the early 1900s. He was an Irish immigrant who loved to tell me when I was very young, too young to hear his stories.
Yeah.
All his crime stories and all his incidents on the, working for the police, and would tell me all kinds of ghost stories and things. And I think it just sort of soaked in. And I have just always been fascinated with it. I knew I always wanted to write things, and I have never really been interested in writing fiction or novels or anything. I've always because I just have always been of the believer that real stories are much stranger and much scarier than, fictional ones. So that's just what I've always done. And that kind of spread out into tours and events and all kinds of stuff. I just love it. I just love what I do. So it's a lot of fun all the time. So
That's awesome. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the Lawndale incident, which happened in 1977. Do you want to give us a little rundown on what happened? A little recap?
So yeah, this is such a weird story. Anyway, because I really been interested in giant bird things for a long time. I've spent most or a good part of my career as a writer and doing tours and stuff in Alton, Illinois, which is a big reputation for being haunted. But before that, we had, and I guess you would still call it sort of the mascot of Alton, is what's known as the Piazza bird.
I'm not going to lie to you, Troy. I was today years old, like literally this exact second, when I realized that it was pronounced the Piazza and it was not pronounced Piazza. And I don't even know why the hell I would have thought that, because now that I think about it, that sounds like Spanish or Italian or something, which makes no goddamn sense. But so anyway, for our audience who is not aware, what is the Piazza? What is the Piazza bird? What is that?
That's a funny story, and it's a complicated one, really, because this painting of this giant bird was, as far as we know, was first documented anyway in the 1600s when Marquette and Joliet were exploring the Mississippi River, they're French explorers. And they noted in their journal that they had seen this giant monster painted on a bluff as they were traveling down the river. And that was really kind of the end of the story until about, maybe a couple hundred years later, when settlers started coming to the area and started this town. And there's still this big bluff with this monster on it. And everybody's curious about it. People are talking about it. They don't know what it is. It did not have a name.
It didn't have a name. Oh, my God. What a shame. There is nothing settlers love more than renaming the native people's stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There was a creek that ran right through the middle of what would become downtown Alton called Piazza Creek. Okay, I'll come back to that because people wanted a story to go with this monster. So There was this guy named John Russell who lived in town, and he was a professor at a little college that had started in Alton. He was also a Baptist minister, and he ran his own newspaper. And he thought it would be fun to create a legend for this monster. So he decided to call it the Piazza, which was named after the creek through town. He said that Piazza meant the bird that devours men in a Lenawik language. It doesn't. It actually, the Piazza, it translates to water panther. It was this monster that lived in the river. It did not fly. It was not a bird. It was a different kind of monster that the Lenawik had as part of their legends. But all these white people, they have no idea. That sounds like a good story to them. So he makes up the story about how this monster was eating everyone in this Native American tribe, and the chief of the tribe comes up with a plan. They kill the Piazza, and it dies in the river. So then they painted its likeness on the bluff because as a tribute to its ferocity. So he was just having fun with it. It was just supposed to be a funny story that he made up to entertain his kids. And instead, it started getting picked up in newspapers all over Illinois as a true story, as the history of the Piazza. And to this day, there's still signs that say the history of the Piazza, even though he never meant it to be anything. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, with the creek and everything, and people just assume that was the real bird. Well, the image that you see, that is what the settlers saw. That's how it was described. That was painted on the bluff. So everyone sort of always wondered if there might have been a real story behind this. Now, Russell's story was not it, but there still could have been some sort of huge, ferocious creature, right? So, and he even told this story about how a Native American man had taken him upriver near where Grafton is now, and they had found a cave filled with human bones. And his idea was that, this must be the lair of the Piazza. But the thing is, we're supposed to believe his story, even though he's the guy who made up the story in the first place. So I was very doubtful, but I kept finding other references to other people who claim they saw the cave. So I can't tell you one way or another if it existed or not, if there really had been some kind of bird. But it's become a really important story. Cryptid people, I've seen it pop up in articles and books and things, and they will tell it like it's a real story, not knowing that it was made up. But still, it was there. right? So the plane was there. And the funny thing is that Alton, back in the 40s, there were all these sightings of a giant bird over town, and so big that people were mistaking it for an airplane until it flapped its wings. And some of the people that saw it, a couple of guys that saw it were World War II veterans. This was in 47. One of them was running the Western Military Academy in school, and he had a buddy who had come by to talk to him one day, and he had also been in the Army Air Force during the war. Both of them saw this thing, thought it was a plane, and then, of course, it started flapping its wings, and they realized that it was a bird like nothing they'd ever seen before. It was so huge. So, ironically, after the Piazza, you still have all these sightings, and it began to be seen all over town and in St. Louis for about the next week and a half before it just sort of disappeared.
Whoa. Hold on. Right. All right. I just need to recap this once for myself so I make sure we're on the same page. All right. So what you're saying is that on this bluff overlooking the river, all right, there is this giant beast painted, okay? And this guy makes up a legend about it, okay, and says, oh, it's this giant bird monster, all right? And, well, he's wrong. It actually, in fact, was a painting of a water panther or a water monster, okay? All right? Now, years later, in the 40s, completely unrelated, a giant bird monster actually shows up, all right? Sort of like a if you build it, they will come sort of situation. I mean, it took a while, but he got there. Right?
Yeah.
So that is now in the 40s. So what about the 50s, 60s? I mean, what happens then?
And then you come into 1977. And the Marlon Lowe story, the Lowe's in Lawndale, that was the first. But the thing was, there were a whole bunch of other ones after theirs.
Right.
Theirs was the most dramatic, though. And no matter what, people who said, oh, I don't believe it, there's no logical reason for these people to lie.
And the poor kid got bullied.
Yeah, he did. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. No explanation for the trauma this kid went through because his mother, in several interviews, would talk about how he had these nightmares and, it wasn't, the harassment started after more people started picking up the story. At first, everybody just said, oh, there's no way this happened. And then it just kept getting repeated. And a lot of people did support the story, but then, a lot of people didn't. There were several newspapers that just called them, that the whole thing was absolutely ridiculous. It couldn't have happened. As always, the game experts come out of the woodwork and, oh, there's no possible way that could be. And, just completely, denying that 4 adults and 3 kids saw these 2 birds. And while just the boys and Ruth, Marlon's mother, is the only one who saw it pick him up off the ground. Why in the world would she make up a story like this?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. Just to open herself up to harassment and people to make fun of the family. But it tore up his shirt. It carried him about 3 feet off the ground for a good 50 yards across the backyard. And, if he hadn't have been fighting against this thing, maybe it would have carried him even further than that, or carried him up high enough that he actually would have been hurt when it let him go.
Who knows? Right.
And honestly, that's not that far-fetched, all right? Because vultures will actually pick up bones and fly them way up in the air and then drop them on the rocks, all right? So they crack them open so they can get to like the marrow and stuff inside, which by the way, I will admit right now is the exact same way I solve a Rubik's Cube, all right? I just dash it on the rocks, okay? And then I put it back together, all right? Because what's the alternative? What am I going to do? Peel the stickers off? That takes forever. And not to mention, it never looks right after. Anyway, the point is, I don't think that it's that far off that this thing could have conceivably flown him up to a great height and then just dropped him.
Yeah.
And he wasn't some little thin 20-pound kid. I mean, he was 50 pounds.
Yeah, this was a good sized kid. I mean, they were old enough that, he was heavy, and when the other adults and his dad came running into the backyard, they saw the birds flying away. There were 4 witnesses to the actual attack and 7 people who saw these things. And whether anybody else did or not, no one ever came forward. But Ruth did report it not because she was looking for attention. She reported it because she was worried that if it picked up her kid, what if it had been a smaller kid that had been in a backyard somewhere when it by chance had come through and picked up a smaller child? So there's no telling what could have happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those stories that it's so wild that you just want to go, oh, come on. You really want to be the voice of reason and say there's no way this happened. But, again, why would they make it up? And then on top of that were all the sightings that followed, where some of those people who were making fun of them probably should have backed off a little bit once they started hearing that this just kept being seen.
Right.
If not the same birds, very similar or almost identical, sometimes two, sometimes one at a time. But it seems to me a lot more than a coincidence that it started in northern Illinois and just sort of worked its way in a big loop all the way through central and then down to southern Illinois before the sighting stopped.
So in the story, there was two birds that were swooping down. They were black birds with white rings around their necks, right? They had the long curved beak, I think like 6 inches, they were saying.
Yeah.
And then the wingspan was like at least 10 feet.
Yeah, that's what at least 10 or 12 feet. I mean, that's the thing, that nobody saw them long enough to take reasonable measurements.
Right. And it's so hard.
One thing you'll find that anytime you ask, anybody to describe something, it's like when people talk about how they, saw Bigfoot. And, oh my God, I saw him for, it must have been 15, 20 seconds. Okay. And I want you to stop and get a clock.
Right.
And see how long that is. You could have had a barbecue with Bigfoot in 20 seconds. So that's not realistic. So you even 2 or 3 seconds, that's long enough for something like this that you would remember it. So I'm going to say this whole thing probably only lasted enough time for those birds to cover that distance. And that is it. So we're talking a handful of seconds and then they're flying off into the sky. So somebody who doesn't know anything about, that's why I always take those sightings in Alton in the 40s from two guys who were in the military. I take them more seriously. They knew airplanes.
Right.
Ruth Lowe did not know airplanes, did not know giant birds. So for her to say 10 or 12 feet, I don't know if that works. If that's big enough to have carried that kid for as long as she was. So what I'm saying is that if this really happened, and like I said, I don't have any real reason to think it didn't, it was probably bigger than 10 or 12 feet.
Yeah.
So that's really in a wingspan. That's not that long. I mean, I can put my arms out to both sides and that's about 6 feet, and I'm guessing.
Right.
So twice my size, I would know that that's big enough to carry a kid away, but boy, bigger than that? Yeah, absolutely. And some of the sightings that followed, some of those birds, the way that people reported them were just massive.
Yeah.
And if they were the same birds, you got a lot of people guessing about wingspans.
Well, and the thing is, guys, we know that there are animals with massive wingspans currently living on this planet. You got Andean condors. I mean, they got 10-foot wingspan on them, Right. That's huge. That is taller than from the floor to the ceiling in the average American home. Okay, that's only like 8 feet, I mean, that's gigantic. Okay, now, you go back to like prehistoric times. We have one territorian bird that went extinct in Argentina. I think it's called the Argentavis, and that thing had a damn near 25-foot wingspan on it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gigantic.
Right.
That's ridiculous how huge that is. And if you go back even further to the pterosaurs, you have one pterosaur, Quetzalcoatlus. That thing, oh my God. I mean, that thing, guys, we're talking damn near 35, 40-foot wingspan. All right.
Oh, wow.
All right. Oh my God. And meanwhile, you got scientists who are taking the DNA of mammoths and recreating like mammoth meat. And then they're making a meatball out of it and selling that. To hell with that. I'll tell you right now. Buffalo Wild Wings, you need to bring back the Quetzalcoatlus or the Argentavis and make a goddamn Buffalo Wild Wing out of that. Holy shit. Can you imagine? Oh my God. I mean, I don't know if it's scientifically ethical, but goddamn, it's delicious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, and what kind of birds? I mean, people are saying it could be vultures, like a turkey vulture or black vulture, or like the Andean condor.
Yeah. And well, turkey vultures, I mean, I grew up in central Illinois, so we used to see them all the time.
Yeah, we have them by me.
So it's, I'm never going to mistake a turkey vulture for something that's going to carry a kid away. They're just not big enough.
Right.
And they talked about them being California condors, because that was the closest, and then people jumped right on it. But all Ruth said, and even when she showed it to the kids, was that that's the closest they could find to what it looked like. It wouldn't match the wingspans. And besides that, at that time, California condors were almost extinct.
Right.
And they were only in California, hence the name, right?
Right.
So, but they were almost extinct at the time. And so it's very unlikely. Let's put it that way. I shouldn't say impossible, but I mean, the whole thing seems impossible and it wasn't, but I think it seems unlikely that it was a California condor. They're not big enough either. They can't carry this stuff away.
Right.
I mean, a little while later, there was the sighting where people saw the bird sitting on a pole that dropped a huge rat.
Oh, yeah.
Another time, there was the guy on the road who saw it pick up a pig and carry it away, and that ain't light. So even a small one, that's not light. So these things, whatever they were big.
You know what? I just got to say, this whole thing smacks of like some bored rich guy's exotic pet got loose, you know? And he's just not telling anybody because he wasn't supposed to have it anyway. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know, right? Right. Every Black Panther story. Yeah. It's
right.
a wrecked circus train.
Yeah.
It's but the funny thing was that did happen sometimes. And, these days, if this happened today, I'd probably think that exact same thing. Because people keep some of the weirdest pets.
Oh, yeah.
Just 2 weeks ago, in my hometown in Decatur, Illinois, somebody snagged a 15-foot alligator. There aren't any alligators in Illinois, but it turned out some guy, some drug dealer in town kept it as a pet. And his neighbors were supposed to be watching it while he was out of town, and they let it get loose. So we had an alligator on the loose in town. Apparently, that's the story I heard from the land of Decatur. So
look, introducing invasive species to an area, that's like the favorite pastime of like any drug dealer, okay? I mean, at this point, I wouldn't be shocked to find out that Mother Nature herself didn't create drug dealers and tiger kings with that specific intent. Like that was the whole purpose, you know what I'm saying? Like some sort of meth-fueled Noah, you know what I'm saying? And to prove that point, keep in mind, there are currently hippos just wandering around Colombia. They're not even on the right goddamn continent. It's crazy.
Troy, what kind of pets do you have?
Yeah, just a cat. So yeah, and he's half blind and too dumb to even go outside. So yeah, we're safe from him. So
no one else came out telling the story, right? Like any of the kids that were there,
right?
No one else said anything.
Yeah, we know their names. They didn't get witness interviews with them. Now there were some of the people who did go to talk to the family, but only talk to the Lows. And Marlon, to this day, doesn't talk about it. He does not do interviews. He never talked about it. Ruth did some, but that was about it. But I mean, he was really picked on in school about it. They called him Bird Boy. People used to leave like dead birds on their porch.
Oh, that's so sad.
Stuff. But he was so traumatized by it, according to his mother, like part of his hair turned white that summer just from the trauma, not from the sun, but actually just from being the shock of what had happened. And so, I mean, there was a lot that they dealt with.
And he was only 10 years old?
Yeah. But they stuck with the story. I mean, after all the people who picked on him and put nasty, articles in the newspaper, they never backed down to the story. They always swore that it really happened, that it was true. So again, why would you make this up?
Right.
I mean, it's not even, what do you think, you're going to become rich and famous because you got picked up by a bird? No, or your kid did. No one cares. They're not going to care that long unless you could catch it and put it in the carnival.
Right.
It's just not going to be anything that anybody's going to be too impressed with. So why lie?
Well, hold on. I'd like to take a moment here to remind everyone about Balloon Boy a couple years back. Remember that nonsense?
Well, yeah.
Where the dad, who was like some reality TV star guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He was like, oh no, my kid went into this balloon that I made and he's up in the sky and everyone freaked out. And then they found the kid and right on national TV, the kid just outed his dad and was like, well, you guys remember you had me hide in the attic and said it was going to be part of the show. Remember? I mean, yeah. Let's not forget that crap.
Yeah, that is true. But wasn't he some kind of? I remember the story. Wasn't he some kind of crazed inventor or something, trying to start a company and use that for publicity? So yeah.
I believe so, and also you have the ills of reality TV and social media that kind of spurred that on. Like that stuff didn't exist back in 77. So.
Right. Not in 1977. No.
Right.
Yeah. In the summer of 77, the only people were talking about was Star Wars, I think.
Oh my God.
So I don't. Yeah.
Well, they could have sold it to like one of those supermarket tabloid papers, but I mean, how much could they have gotten?
Yeah. I mean, it just, there just wasn't. I don't even think Weekly World News was in business yet. So, and they just made their stuff up anyway.
Yeah.
So, there was no place to publicize this other than in like legit newspapers, most of which, made fun of the story. Not all of them, though. I mean, there were some reporters who were interested, especially when it's kept happening. When people started around the area, started seeing these birds and reporting it, and the thing about that is the way I look at that is that after seeing what people did to the Lows after reporting the attack, and why would you come forward if you didn't really have something happen to you? Just so you could be, made fun of and criticized. That doesn't.
Yeah, no one's going to say anything.
So that's the stuff that continued to happen was pretty crazy. Now there is that footage that was filmed of a couple of giant birds over Lake Shelbyville by the guy from Tuscola, I think, and those don't look like the same birds to me. I don't know if you've ever seen that footage or have seen the photographs, the stills from that footage. They don't seem that big, but I don't know. He did kind of. I don't know. There was a bit of I'm going to jump on the bandwagon here to that whole thing. I don't know that for a fact, but it didn't. I mean, but he did sell it to the TV station, which
of course
puts you right into questioning everything about it.
Right.
But some of the other ones, though, just don't make any sense. I mean, why would you make up a story about looking out your window and seeing a huge bird perched on a tree that's now bent down to the ground because it's so heavy? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's not a story that's worth bragging about,
Right.
But it is when you mix it in with all of these other stories, then it becomes very strange.
The footage that you mentioned, I believe that is actually in the Small Town Monsters movie, Terror in the Sky.
Oh yeah, it is.
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, Texas John's footage. Yeah, or I think he changed his name after that, but at the time I think he was Texas John. It's so. I mean, I don't know. Those birds don't look that massive to me compared to the other sightings, but I mean, who knows? He was a little distance away.
It's so hard to judge when you're looking at something in the sky. Like, it could
be anything.
Crazy. It could be 3 feet and it looks,
Well, when you look up and you see something like that, I mean, you have nothing. You have no frame of reference.
Yeah.
You have nothing to compare it to. You're just looking up and going like, I see clouds and like the moon and like blue,
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's different when they're picking up pigs and stuff, that's, you see that and you think, okay, that's big. But just flying through the sky. Yeah. It's pretty hard.
Now, have there been any reports recently in that area?
Not that I have heard. I haven't heard any giant bird stories in quite a while. We're probably due.
Oh my God! Like we don't have enough going on already. We're gonna throw that on the heap. Giant bird sightings. Oh my God! I mean, seriously, at this point, like what sign of the apocalypse are we up to now? What number is this?
Yeah. Because no, I haven't heard any in quite some time. So I mean, because now we're looking at 40 years. Has it been that? Yeah, it's been 40 years ago, almost 50, going on 50 years ago. And if there have been any, I've missed them. But I always like the story about the mailman. I think he was a mailman or a milkman that was real early in the morning, was on his way and saw the birds and was so like shaken up by it, he stopped and he said that he smoked like 5 cigarettes to try to calm himself down after seeing this giant bird on the side of the road.
That's nothing to Sam.
What? Are you nuts? Look at all this hair. Oh my God. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what happens if I flick a cigarette in the wrong direction? Oh my God. Oh my God. I go up like a Roman candle. Yeah, that's all I need. That's all I need. Just sitting there ashing my cigarette and I'm just singeing what looks like a map to pirate treasure right there in my gut. Oh my God. Oh my God. Don't give in to peer pressure, kids. Don't smoke. You know what I'm saying? But speaking of peer pressure, I mean, what they did to that kid, what they did to Marlon, I mean, it's no wonder no one else came forward. I mean, good God. No wonder why so many people don't want to share their stories,
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nobody was going to jump on that bandwagon, but then other people did come forward, though, man. So I don't know. If they didn't see anything, it seems like a silly thing to do, to put yourself out there as a target for more ridicule, but I don't know. But I guess I think the same thing. Well, I don't know. I was going to say I think the same thing today, but man, I've seen some so-called trail footage and things that are obviously photoshopped. And, you know, like you said, social media now today, it's much more lucrative, I suppose, or at least for attention, to come forward and say that you've seen something. I mean, I've seen some really dumb things that people claim are real, and it's just, come on, man. I don't know. I think maybe that's why we haven't had any giant bird sightings, is because, you know, maybe today it's a little easier to prove something isn't what someone says it is than it used to be.
Yeah.
But like, honest to God, guys, there could be like 1 million giant bird sightings and we'll never know because no one cares, you know? Look, what I mean is we now have the U.S. government telling us, hey, you know what? UFOs are real. All right. They're here. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they want. Their technology is more advanced than ours. There's nothing we can do about it. And everyone's just like, yawn. Oh, well, who cares?
Is that all?
You know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, like at this point, like, you can have a giant bird sighting, but people are going to be like, oh, it's just a giant bird?
Yeah. It's a pterodactyl, you know, or something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can have a pterodactyl and people will be like, yeah, I saw that in that Jurassic Park movie. Big deal. Big whoop.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Yeah, you can never get away with the, you know, that person footage, you know, from the creek bed today. You know, it'd have to be, Bigfoot would have to have been, you know, driving a car, you know, through the canyon instead. You know, it would never be exciting enough for people to care.
Right. And even if you did have like actual physical evidence, right, like a body, people still won't believe it. I mean, just the stuff that you can do these days.
Yeah.
It's
just pictures of it wouldn't do it. You'd have to actually have it analyzed by someone who actually, you know, that's the only way that anybody's ever going to accept these things, or science anyway, is going to accept these things as real, as if they can tear it apart and cut it up and make sure that it's actually or was a living creature. So, you know, the only way to prove Bigfoot is either capture him or kill him.
Whoa. Let's just take a moment here and calm down, everybody. Okay, let's not get any ideas, all right?
I know, and I don't want that to happen. I'm not saying that I'm endorsing this idea.
Okay, good.
You know, there are some states who have laws against shooting Bigfoot, so I think that's the good way to go. But that's the only way I think a lot of people are ever going to believe that it's for real.
Sam, you better find out where those states are so you're safe.
Well, you better believe I've been Googling here for the last couple of minutes while we've been talking. I mean, oh my God, you're damn right. And not to mention, I don't think I'll be going to visit Laura anytime soon, because she sounds like she's getting some ideas over there, looking to cash in on my body or something. Oh my God, oh, you freaking ghoul.
We'll just huck rocks at you.
Okay, so Troy, let's cut to the chase here, man. All right, if you had to put your money on what you thought these things were, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about some sort of like leftover species from a thought to be extinct population of giant bird? You know, are we talking about an animal just out of place? You know, it's just not where it's supposed to be. You know, like an Andean or California condor, or are we dealing with some sort of like Mighty Joe Young, James the Giant Peach situation here? We had this normal thing that just got way bigger than it was supposed to. You know, like if Clifford the Big Red Dog had feathers and wanted to eat kids. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, there's so much out there that we don't see. I mean, we think the world is so small. And it's not. You know, we look at our maps, and the maps don't mean a thing, because a map you look at of the United States was just compressed so that it would fit on paper. You know, there are so much open land in every single state, and in the West especially. You know, the map doesn't tell us anything. I think there are things out there. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not an expert on cryptids, but you know, if you ask me, do I believe this stuff is possible? Absolutely. I mean, you know, we've explored like 7% of the world's oceans. So even our land areas are so still unexplored and left open, and there aren't people out there. So there are things I think can easily hide away in places that we just don't go, whether they be birds or Bigfoot or whatever. I'm all for. I'm very open-minded when it comes to this stuff, and I think it's very possible that these birds wandered in from somewhere. You know, that probably are flying around on a regular basis, someplace where people don't normally see them, And for whatever reason, they came east or south or whatever, and ended up, being spotted over a more populated area during that summer. From July through like November. People just kept seeing them. And then we didn't see them anymore because they went back to wherever it was they came from.
My money would be on Ohio or maybe in like West Virginia. I mean, honest to God, those states are so jam-packed full of weird shit. It's like they're having an arms race with each other, involving cryptids or UFOs. It's nuts.
I think the world is a lot more mysterious than, mainstream historians and scientists think it is. I really do.
I mean, and there have been big birds that are extinct now. You have like the Teratorns and, like this isn't just.
Exactly. Yeah. For all we know, there are still some around. I mean, we keep finding things that we didn't even know. Every once in a while, somebody will find a fish or some sort of animal, usually in Asia or somewhere, that was out in an unexplored area that we thought, went extinct a couple thousand years ago. And here they are. They're still around, so there's no reason to think that some of this other stuff couldn't still be around, these large sized birds or whatever for that matter. So, yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I feel the same way about the Rolling Stones. Every time I think they're gone, that I've seen the last of them, and they turn around and boop, there they are. Anyway, speaking of crazy, now answer me this. What is the deal with Illinois and the paranormal, all right? There's so much stuff going on there, all right? No. Not to let the cat out of the bag, but I'm in Minnesota. We do not have a cryptid-rich history, okay? We have a couple ghosts here and there, but for the most part, we don't have stuff going on like Illinois does, okay? Illinois, you guys got your Chicago Mothman. You got your Big Muddy Monster, Coal Hollow Road Monster. You got your Enfield Horror, your Farmer City Monster. You got your Wolfman of Chestnut Mountain. You got your Piasaw Bird. You got your Mad Gasser of Mattoon, plus all the ghosts, all the UFOs, all the stuff, right? So, why is that? What's up with that?
I'm about to tell you exactly why that is.
Oh.
It's not because we have any more than anybody else does. It's just that there are a number of people who have documented them here. Every town has ghost stories. Every town has a weird story. But if nobody writes them down, nobody knows about it. The good thing when it comes to cryptids, and I'm gonna bump myself down the line, but when it comes to cryptids, Lauren Coleman grew up in Illinois too. We both, in fact, grew up in the same hometown. He did it many years, as I like to remind him, many years before I did. But so Lauren wrote down, documented so many things around Illinois, and then I picked up the true crime and paranormal stuff, but I like the monsters and stuff too. So I picked some of it up too, and I've documented it too. So both of us have gotten a lot of stuff out there. And so it makes Illinois, and I'm not the only one who's done ghosts and things in Illinois either, but because there is so much of it that has been documented and written about and been on TV shows and stuff, it seems like Illinois is this super hot spot. Honestly, I think it's just as active as any other state, as long as people start documenting and writing and doing the research on this stuff. I always think that I've covered a lot of things, and then I start going through like old newspapers and stuff like that maybe I hadn't gone through before, and I find tons more stuff. It's just a matter of digging it up. It really is. And so it seems like Illinois is hotter than it is, but it's active, but so's everywhere else.
You know what? I hear exactly what you're saying, man. I hear you. And that sounds like a shocking amount of work. I am incredibly lazy. I'm not doing any of that, but thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's as long as you don't think of it as work, it stays fun.
Well, I, for one, am glad that you have decided to pick up that cross and bear it, because I am not going to do it. That is just way too much work. But thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service.
So, Troy, you have a new book that's coming out. Actually, I think it'll be out by the time this episode airs, but it's Hell Hath No Fury 3 with Amanda Woomer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amanda Woomer. She has done a few books on different things, but she edits a journal called The Feminine Macabre, and it's women. It's women, usually about women, written by women.
Yeah.
And so, and she and I have been friends for quite a while. And so I thought it would be fun to get her involved in a series of books that are about women who murder people. It's mostly it's a series. Yeah. The series is called Hell Hath No Fury. And about half of it is women who murder people. The other half is women who are murdered. And it's true crime and ghost stories mixed together. And so she came in and did we split up the duties on this last one. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to get to work with her. And I don't do a lot of co-authoring because I'm much faster than other people. So at writing. And so people get irritated with me because I'm like, God, are you done yet or not? So I was working on another project. She went ahead and did this ahead of time. So she was smart. So, but yeah, it comes out. We're releasing it at the Haunted America conference because we'll both be there.
Oh, very cool.
And then it's coming out everywhere June 26th. So probably by the time this year.
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
Me and Sam actually took a road trip and we stopped and visited the exhibit about Belle Gunness. Is that?
Yeah, in Indiana.
So that was interesting, talking about women who murder people.
Yeah, I mean, if serial killing was a profession, that woman decided to go pro. It was not amateur hour. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's wars that didn't have body counts that high.
Definitely.
Good God,
it's one of the worst. That's for sure.
So Troy, you also have the podcast. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we started the podcast a few years ago. Cody Beck is my co-host, and he is sort of talked me into it. I really hadn't thought about doing anything like that. And so we did our first season about Alton. And now we're sort of going back 7 years later and revisiting some things with Alton, doing some new stuff. But we also have a regular season that we do all the time. And so each season, we usually will devote it to one place or story. Like we did a season on the Villisca Axe murders.
Yes,
we did a
that was
season
so
on
good.
Haunted Hollywood, Haunted St. Louis. We did one that was haunted kind of the farms and fields of folk horror type stuff of America. And the new season is people who mysteriously disappeared. But we also do a Patreon podcast, which was funny that you mentioned Belle Gunness because that was season 2 of our Patreon podcast. And so right now I'm doing a series on H.H. Holmes and the Murder Castle in Chicago. So yeah, we actually right now have 3 podcasts that we're doing, which is don't ever do that.
How do you find the time for all of this?
I know, don't ever do it. It's a nightmare. So, but it has been fun, but it's also a nightmare. So 2 was enough, but we thought this revisiting Alton thing would be fun. So we decided to do it. So.
And then you made time to do the Haunted America conference every year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This is our 26th year. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we finally had to move to a bigger, we keep moving. We slowly have moved to bigger venues as the time has gone on. And this year we're at Lewis and Clark College, the home of the ghost of Harriet Haskell. And so we moved to Lewis and Clark. And so it's coming up. Well, probably by the time this airs, it will have just happened, but that is coming up, and then we'll be doing it again next year. As soon as it's over, I already am starting to plan for the next year, which is, again, I'm going to use the N word and say nightmare because it is, but it's also a lot of fun, and I look forward to it every year. We sometimes will call it Paranormal Summer Camp because it's like a chance to see people that you literally only see once a year. But it goes so fast. You spend so much time planning it, and you all get together, and then the 3 days are over in like no time. You turn around, you blink, it's gone. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah,
we were just hanging out last weekend. Was it last weekend that we were at Monster Fest in Ohio?
Yeah.
But we were hanging out with Heather Mosier, and I know she's going to be there.
She is.
So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, where can people find you if they want to get your books or find your podcast?
Probably the easiest way to find everything is just go to AmericanHauntings.net. Books are there. You can get the tours, the dinner events that we do, and everything, the conference, the whole bit. It's all on that website.
I have done the tours, and I have done one of the dinner events. I did the Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, you were down for Evening with Poe.
Yeah, so those were good. So go check them out, people.
Yeah, those are fun. Those are a lot of fun.
And if people want to get your social security number and home address, where would we find those?
You'll find that on that same page, so everybody can find it. So.
All Oh, very good. That's a trick question. Well played, sir. Well played.
Won't do you any good, but you're welcome to it. So,
you know what? This has just been an absolute pleasure. I can't stress enough. Especially like the giant bird stuff. It's not my forte. In fact, birds, they just kind of creep me out in general. So I'm glad you were here to really walk us through this. So thank you so much for being here. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that was fun. Thanks, guys.
Troy Taylor, he's a pretty good guy. That went pretty well. Yeah,
I like him. He is very knowledgeable.
Yes, he is. You know what? The guy's an author. He's got the
podcast.
Yeah, he's got a podcast.
Tours.
He's got the tours.
Events.
He's got the events. He's got the dinners. I mean, the guy's got it all. And
he does.
He's got that awesome beard. My God, it's luscious.
Very.
You know what?
You need to ask him what he uses.
I do. I'm having serious beard envy at this point. I just have a hard time imagining myself asking another man for, beauty tips.
You need some help for sure.
You know what? I do. I really.
I know what I say it out of love, Sam. I do.
Oh, thank you. You know what? Thank you so much. Hey, you know what?
You ready to get out of here?
Yeah. Why don't you do the outro? All right, and then let's get out of here. And you know what? This time, drinks are on you. I bought last time, so they're on you. Let's get the hell out of here.
Okay, I can't have too many though.
More for me. I don't care. Let's go. Come on.
All right, here we go. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Visit us at creepyacres.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Oh, wait. We're also on Threads now. Yeah. And speaking of Threads, make sure you look for our merch over on tpublic.com. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Thanks for listening, everybody. And as always, hey, keep it creepy.